All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. For the bulk of the Minnesota Timberwolves' existence, they have been just another franchise in the NBA. Prior to this season, the T Wolves had only won two playoff series, and they both came in the same year in 2004. For years, the Timberwolves have been plagued by bad ownership and inept drafting, but for the first time in a long time, things are looking good for the T Wolves. And as Minnesota has finally like they finally have their first true face of their franchise since the days that they traded Kevin Garnett 17 years ago. They also might have one of the few future faces of the NBA as well. Now, 4 years ago, Minnesota selected guard Anthony Edwards first overall in the draft. And even though that Edwards had the talent coming out of the University of Georgia, you wondered if it would all come to fruition playing for one of the NBA's most notorious losers. Now, in 2021, Edwards finished second to LaMelo Ball for the NBA's Rookie of the Year award, but he didn't rest on his laurels. And as Ant-Man has gotten better with his game, so too have the fortunes of the Timberwolves. Minnesota only won 23 games during Anthony Edwards' rookie season, but they finished with a winning record in each season since, while they won 56 games in the regular season this year for their second best run during an 82 game NBA regular season. But the playoffs are where legends are born. And as Minnesota was one and done in each of the last 2 years, Ant-Man said, you know what? Not on my watch this year. We just saw the Timberwolves cap off a dominating and emphatic four-game sweep of the Phoenix Suns in round one of the NBA playoffs. And in that series, the Suns never had an answer for Anthony Edwards. He averaged 31 points, 8 rebounds, and more than 6 assists for the series, which included going for 40 in the closeout game on Sunday night. Great players step up when their team needs them to, and that is exactly what Anthony Edwards has been doing for the Timberwolves all season long. And once upon a time, it did look like Carl Anthony Towns was going to be the face of the franchise for the T Wolves, but no disrespect for Cat, but he's a guy to me that shies away from the spotlight, while a guy like Ant-Man simply embraces it. And not only is Anthony Edwards the face of the franchise for the Minnesota Timberwolves, we could be talking about this guy soon as the face of the NBA. You think about it, his just overall game, and it's one of those where he's a star right now, but he is on that fast track, in my opinion, to superstardom. And there's a big difference. There's a difference between stars and there's a different and superstars. Anthony Edwards is on his way to becoming a superstar. That is how good that this kid is. He's a guy that when he plays, he wants all eyes on him, and the moment is not too big for him. And Ant Man also has that killer instinct in him, like we've seen some of the greats in the NBA over the years, such as Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and so many others. Ant Man has that it factor. And for you to become a household name, for you to take your game to the next level, it's all about what you can do in the postseason. Step one for Anthony Edwards was helping the Minnesota Timberwolves win in round number one, something that they had not been able to do in 20 years. Now, he has a very tough task ahead of him, as well as his Timberwolves teammates, as they take on the Denver Nuggets in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. And of course, we all know that the Denver Nuggets are the defending champs. But nonetheless, this is where you get respect. This is where you get notoriety in these big moments, and that's going to be it's going to be very interesting to see what Ant Man is going to be able to help the Timberwolves do when they take on the Nuggets when that series begins this weekend. But nonetheless, again, going back to what I said before, he's like the first real face of this franchise since Kevin Garnett. And I say that I know that the Timberwolves have had some quality players between KG and Anthony Edwards, but it's one of those where there's a difference between players that are here and players that are on another level. Ant Man is on that next level. So you look at him, like I said before, the moment's not too big for him. He has, and it's not just about, putting people on posters, so to speak, with his dunking ability. He has that it factor. And when I say that it factor, you know what? It's kind of that over my dead body mentality. Are we going to go out there and lose? And I'm going to do whatever it takes at either end of the floor to help my team win. And that's something that Anthony Edwards brings to the table. This guy is not even 25 years old yet. The sky is a limit for him. And sometimes we see youngsters come into the league and it doesn't work out. A lot of times, more often than not, it has to do with the team that they're playing for, where the losing culture is so deep. And getting back to that culture with the Minnesota Timberwolves, it would be very easy, for Anthony Edwards to succumb to that. But things are changing for this franchise. You think about the impact that Chris Finch has had on this team as their head coach. You think about the new ownership group. You still have Glenn Taylor in place as the majority owner. Bringing in former MLB third baseman Alex Rodriguez, as well as Mark Laurie, who are minority owners. And I know that there's some controversy behind that as far as who's going to get controlling interest of this franchise long term. But nonetheless, it is about changing that culture. And like I said before, the Timberwolves have been one of the NBA's most notorious losers. But each of the last 3 years, they've made the postseason. And, it's one of those things where, just winning and advancing to one round is kind of like expected for some franchises. But when you haven't done it in so long and you haven't done it that often, it just gives you an idea of how things are looking to, or how they're hoping to change things for this team. But as far as changing things, Anthony Edwards has had an impact in that. And if the Timberwolves are going to take that next step as a franchise, Ant-Man is going to be a big part of that as well. Like I said, the spotlight is not too big for this guy. He embraces it. And I think, as Ant-Man gets better, so too will the Minnesota Timberwolves. This guy is the real deal. And if anybody doesn't know, they need to know that Anthony Edwards is that dude. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.